Hey, Daily Dosers, thanks for joining us today. My name is Chase, and I'm the campus pastor out at our Palma Valley campus. You know, as we talk about spring cleaning, I can't help but imagine the closets that all of us are scared to go to, right? These are the closets that you just crack it open just enough to reach your hand inside, and inevitably something pops out. And so you got to open those doors completely, and you're reminded of the boxes and bags of stuff that you haven't looked at it, you don't even know what it is. You haven't used it in 10 or 15 years. And yet we go through that spring cleaning process so that we take some of that stuff out, we throw some of it away, inevitably we give it to somebody else and it lives in their closet for 5 or 10 years until they pass it on to somebody else. But we intentionally create this space every year. And I realized I do the same thing almost every spring with my time. You know, I look at my schedule and I even joke with people around me and say, man, if we could just add another day to the week or maybe a couple of hours to the day, I would finally get to everything that I need to get to. And yet I know when I create that space of time, it inevitably fills up with something else. Well, this morning I wanted to talk to us about intentionally creating that space of time because it's going to do a couple things positively for us and helps us get away from some of the negative consequences of being overly busy. A couple years ago, I found this short story. It's fictional, so it didn't actually happen, but it's a powerful word picture for what can happen to us as Christians in the church if we aren't careful with what we're doing with our time. So it's called Satan's Agenda, and it was written by Geraldine Harris and Kristen Maddox, and this is what they wrote. Satan called a worldwide convention. In his opening address to his demons, he said, "We can't keep the Christians from going to church. We can't keep them from reading their Bibles and knowing the truth. We can't keep them from their biblical values, but we can do something else. We can keep them from forming an intimate, continual experience with Christ. How shall we do this?" asked his demons. "Keep them busy with the non-essentials of life and invest unnumbered schemes to occupy their minds. Convince them to work 6 or 7 days a week, 10 to 12-hour days so they can afford their lifestyles. Keep them from spending time with their children. As their families fragment, soon their homes will offer no escape from the pressures of work. Overstimulate their minds so they cannot hear that still, small voice. Entice them to play the radio or CD player wherever they drive, to keep the TV, the DVD player, their CDs going constantly in their homes. Fill their coffee tables with magazines and newspapers. Pound their minds with news 24 hours a day. Even in their recreation, let them be excessive. Have them return from their holidays exhausted, disquieted, and unprepared for the coming week. And when they gather for spiritual fellowship, involve them in gossip and small talk so they leave with souls unfulfilled. Let them be involved in evangelism, but crowd their lives with so many good causes that they have no time to seek power from Christ. Soon they will be working in their own strength, sacrificing their health and family unity for the good of the cause." It was quite a convention. You know, as I read this, it almost creates a checklist for me to go through of, hey, what am I guilty of? Where could I cut some things out to create that space of time? And we see and can think of times in our lives where we weren't managing our time well and where we were operating out of our own strength, sacrificing our health and our family unity. And so I want to talk about 2 things that will inevitably happen if we create this space of time in our lives. See, first of all, one of the things it talks about is having music and audiobooks, podcasts, just noise in the background when we're driving. I know I'm guilty of this, is that every time I'm driving around, I'm constantly listening to something, even these daily doses as I go around. And so I'm multitasking and doing these things. But I can also remember that the times that I have chosen to keep my radio or my music or podcast off in the car, those are some of the best conversations I ever have with God. It's the time that I get to process with him and to pray to him. And so some of these things, yeah, they're easy to do, and it creates this space of time for us to have that consistent, intimate relationship with God. The other thing it allows us to do is to find rest. And I know that's almost a curse word in today's society to say that, hey, I have to have some downtime to rest. But even Jesus, in one of his conflicts with the Pharisees, they're arguing about what the purpose of the Sabbath is. In Mark 2:27, Jesus says, "Sabbath was made for man, not man for Sabbath." The first part of that phrase, Sabbath was made for us. See, God knew we needed rest. Jesus knew we needed some time to get away and to rest. And so let me encourage you, as you go to your closets and consider opening those doors where everything's going to pour out, let's look at our time and think, hey, what are we investing our time in? What can we cut out so that we can consistently have that intimate relationship with God and find rest. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.